Sixth grade, you are now time traveling, and we will be reviewing the new topic that we are studying. You'll notice I haven't posted an assignment this week, and that's because I want to give you this week to finish your technical drawing final projects, which I remain on hand to help you with in any way that I feasibly can. So as you're kind of wrestling with those, I just want to point to a few things that have come up. We have a new schedule. That's because many middle schoolers are returning to the building this week. And basically the time that I see you guys hasn't changed, but the location that I see some of the other classes has changed. We, of course, will continue to see each other through this wonderful machine. So be aware of that. It doesn't really affect you. Jing's got a hand up again. Is it an accident this time?
Wait, so am I supposed to be in this class?
No, you're in the right place. Don't worry about it.
Then why did you say it changed?
Because people may be watching this later for whom it is relevant. If they're not in a remote class, for example, if they're coming to the building, they're going to see that they might be meeting with me in a different location than they previously did. Today,
so I'm supposed to be here, right?
You are in the right place, and you are welcome. Today, we are going to be looking at boats. We've been studying technical drawing. That has enabled us to kind of conceive of three-dimensional objects in two-dimensional space and vice versa. As you continue to refine your technical drawings, let's talk about boats and boat design because that is going to finish up our year. We're going to go over the attached slide presentation together now. Please have a sketchbook handy. Oops, I should have written handy, not down. Have your sketchbook handy. There we go. So that you can write down responses to questions and sketch a little bit. Okay? So here we go. Layla asks, will we have to make a technical drawing of a boat? Yes, something like that. But not right this second. We're going to learn about boats a little bit first before we try to do technical drawings of them, because boats are a little bit complicated, actually. Let's take a look and see just how complicated they can get. Boats. What are boats anyway? Have your sketchbooks out. Sketch along with the pictures if you want to. Feel free to respond. Is this a log or a boat? Why or why not?
A log.
It's a log. Is a log a boat? Can it be a boat?
No.
Why?
Because a log is a log.
Because a log is a log.
A boat.
Benjamin says a boat because it's floating. Jason says it's floating on water. Therefore, is it a boat? Layla says, can it be both? It could be a floating device, and boats are floating devices. What do you think? If you can ride it, it's a boat. We need to understand what a boat is, says Austin. Let's continue to explore what a boat is and what a boat is not. What about this bottle? Is this a boat?
It's a bottle.
It's a bottle. Can a bottle be a boat?
What?
Can a bottle be a boat? Rand says no. Austin says a small vessel propelled on water by oars, sails, or an engine. I see Austin's been digging through the internet. Jason says it's too small for humans. Interesting. What about this unicorn floating?
Okay, now that's a boat.
Jing says this is a boat. Anybody disagree? Thinks this is not a boat? Jing, I'm going to ask you to mute yourself if you're not presently talking. Thank you. Benjamin says yes. Ren says yes. Jason says he thinks it has a sail. I will tell you from experience, I have a unicorn floaty very similar to this one, and it will catch some wind and start moving around. Austin's digging through the internet. I'm seeing those definitions, Austin. Very familiar definitions to me, by the way. This seems like some kind of boat. Is this a boat? Is this a boat? Christopher, Benjamin, Ran, Jason all say no, it is not. Austin says no. Why can't this be a boat? If you were small enough to ride on the back of this duck, would it be a boat? Jason says no, it's a duck. Are you sure? Yeah, if baby ducks ride on their mother's backs, are they boating? Austin says a boat is an inanimate object. Jason thinks if baby ducks were to ride on the back of their mother's backs, they would be boating. Does anybody disagree? Jason says the duck doesn't have a sail or an engine, so how does it move through the water, Jason? It swims. What does it swim with? Its arms? Does it go like this? It has webbed feet that paddle like this under its body, right? Not unlike oars or paddles, right? Or even kind of like a propeller. What about these? Are these boats? Clockwise from top left, we're looking at a research submarine, a hydrofoil, and a seaplane. Are they boats? I'm seeing a yes, I'm seeing a no. Defend your answers. Why? Ren, which one of these is a boat? Ren says one of them. Which one of these is a boat? The white boat, the hydrofoil, this one in the upper right. Layla says the ones that float on water. Well, let's see. The seaplane definitely floats on water. The hydrofoil probably does float on water. Jason says the submarine is not a boat. How come? Because it's under the water. So a boat can't be under the water. It has to sit on top of the water. The hydrofoil definitely is on top of the water. The only things that are in the water are fins. So part of it is in the water. Austin says boats are made to float on water, so that eliminates the sub. Boats can't fly. Are we eliminating the seaplane? Is the seaplane a boat? They can't have wings. What do you think? Is it ever a boat? When it's taxiing, it's still not a boat. Is that what we're saying? It's always a plane. Never a boat, always a plane. What about these? We got a floating bridge in Russia on the left and a floating platform in a lake. Are they boats? Benjamin says yes.
Made for transportation.
They're made for transportation. Okay. So the bridge definitely is made for transportation. The floating platform, what about the floating platform? Is that for transportation? It kind of stays in one place.
Definitely not a boat.
Rand says it is still a boat, though. So, Austin, why is it not a boat? Because it's not for transportation? It doesn't move? Jason says it doesn't move.
Or can it move?
It's usually anchored. It's usually attached to a buoy or an anchor. Jason says it's an island. Interesting.
Is it floating on the water?
It floats on the water. It has pontoons or rafts.
Okay,
so it is floating, but it's usually attached to a buoy or it's anchored in place. So, Ren, do you think the swim platform can be a boat? It is floating. Sorry, I didn't quite catch that, Austin.
Is the bridge floating too?
The bridge is floating, yeah. Those green pointy things are called pontoons. And they float on the surface of the water. And in fact, in Curacao, in the Caribbean, there is a floating bridge like this that actually opens by moving out of the way like that. So you have a river or a channel like this, and a bridge goes across it, floating, and it opens like this to let boat traffic through in Curacao.
Making this easy.
It is confusing.
On this hand, I feel like it's a boat, but on the other hand, I feel like it isn't a boat.
Yeah. So the swim platform, it can move. If you cut the line that was holding it to the anchor, it would float away. You could get on it with a paddle, and you could paddle it.
Totally a boat.
Then it's a boat. What about when it's tied to the anchor?
I think it's
still a boat when it's tied to the anchor? Why? Because it's floating and you can move on it, right?
Just because a boat has an anchor doesn't mean that it isn't a boat. All a lot of anchors, but that doesn't make them not a boat.
Right. You can anchor a boat for sure. And boats, what do boats have to do to be boats?
They have to float.
They have to float in what? Can they float on air? Jason says on water. So is it still a boat when it's not in the water?
Yes.
Here's a boat that's up on blocks. When a boat is out of the water in dry dock, we say in the boating world, we say it's on the hard.
It's definitely still a boat.
It's still a boat. Why is it still a boat? It's not floating in water. It's sitting on stilts.
Okay, a boat doesn't have to be sitting in water to be a boat. It needs to be able to float in water to be a boat.
Okay. All right. It needs to be able to float in water to be a boat. I have a metal vase here. Okay. It's got an opening there, and it's solid all the way around. If I set this into a body of water, it would probably float for a little while until water got in and it became too heavy and could no longer float on the surface. Is this a boat? Like if I closed it off and threw it in the water and it floated, would it be a boat?
Oh, darn.
Can transport something? Yeah, I could put some stuff in there. It could transport it. Rand says it has a sail. If you're small enough, yeah, for sure. We could find a very tiny person, put them in my vase, cover it up, right? Chuck them in the water, and then they would be traveling by way of my metal vase, right? Maybe somebody's hamster could travel, right? That way. So let's look at some definitions, and Austin was very enterprising in the way that he found these. The Oxford English Dictionary defines a boat as, quote, a small vessel propelled on water by oars, sails, or an engine. That word vessel, where else do we see that word vessel? I have it there in bold. Where have you seen that word vessel before? What do you think, Austin? Anyone familiar with that word vessel? Layla says literally only in anime. So a vessel, I can think of two other places where I've heard the word vessel. One is blood vessels, right? Which are kind of like little tubes inside our bodies that carry blood. So it's a way of transporting. It's kind of a thoroughway or like a thoroughfare for blood in our bodies, blood vessels. They carry blood and other signals around, right? If you damage a blood vessel, you might bleed a lot. You might lose feeling, something like that. So we're talking about transportation. We're talking about moving stuff from place to place. And the other place you see the word vessel is referring to some kind of container, often for liquid or flowers or something like that.
I literally never heard of that before.
Look up drinking vessel. It's like
a cup. Still never before.
So again, that brings us back to this idea of something that can contain something else. And in the case of a boat, in order for it to float, what do you think it needs to be able to contain?
People. Something.
In order for it to float in water, what does it need to contain?
Air.
Air, exactly. Vessel containing air. Wikipedia says a boat can be a watercraft. So watercraft, what is a watercraft, right? It's a vessel containing air that sits on the water, of a large range of types and sizes, but generally smaller than a ship, which is distinguished by its larger size, shape, cargo, or passenger capacity, or its ability to carry boats.
So the log is a boat.
A ship has the ability to carry boats. So we're starting to get into the distinction between a boat and a ship. A ship carries boats. Ability to carry boats. Here's a picture of a 29-foot sailboat carrying a smaller boat on it. Okay? 29-foot sailboat would easily fit in this room where I'm talking to you from. Some of you have been in the art room before. You can picture it. A sailboat that fits in this room, is it very big? Is that a big sailboat? What do you think? I'll tell you something, it's not. On a 29-foot sailboat, two people start to feel a little bit cramped after a few hours. Just a little. Give them a weekend, they're going to be all up in each other's business.
It also depends on the capacity.
Yeah, for sure. But check this out. Sailboats and other boats will often carry smaller boats on them or with them, called tenders. Tenders are used for moving passengers and cargo between the boat and shore when the boat is not fastened. When the boat is fastened. When the boat is not fastened or moored to a dock, or when the water is too shallow for the sailboat to enter safely. Sailboats have what's called a draft of, several feet sometimes for stability, and we're going to talk about that later. So if sailboats carry tenders on them, which are small boats like dinghies, does that make them ships because they're carrying tenders?
No idea.
A tender is like a little rowboat. Sometimes there'll be a motor on the back. Usually. Sorry, Austin, you're breaking up a little bit. It's hard to hear what you're saying.
I said I just searched up tender and I got chicken.
Yep. If you search tender out of context, you are definitely not going to find small boats for shuttling yourself to and from your bigger boat. So a little bit more on boats carrying other boats. Most boats above a certain size that are not human-powered have to carry life rafts for emergencies. So most boats actually do carry other boats. Right? If we can agree that a life raft is a kind of a boat, then you will find boats on boats most of the time. And it's not just these cargo ship carrier boats. In the lower left-hand corner, you can see a ship that is designed to carry a whole bunch of other ships. Not only that, It's a ship this one is carrying 2 or 3 ships, each of them stacked up with 7 or 8 or 9 other ships.
Is carrying that ship. That's carrying that ship.
Right.
Carrying that ship.
Yep.
That's that ship.
Exactly. And you know that on ships that size, the cargo ships that are stacked up there, they're going to have some life rafts. They're going to have some lifeboats for sure. Right? For safety. Safety first, guys.
My mind is blown.
Yes! All right, let's continue. So, how do we define boat? As a class, let's come up with some suggestions and see if there's one that we can all agree on. Teamwork, guys, teamwork. Boatception. So, how are we going to define boat? What's a boat? Any ideas? Can anyone come up with a definition for boat that you think all your classmates are going to agree on? Okay, so Rand says the boat has to float. Okay? A floating vehicle used for transportation, says Benjamin. A floating vehicle used for transportation. What if it's they have these boats that are just like drones, where it's an unmanned boat, an unpiloted, no crew. It's just something that floats, and you do it by remote control, like the little sailboats in Central Park.
Still a boat.
Still a boat, but it's not used for transportation. It's not transporting anyone.
Well,
Jason says a vessel that can float on water. What about that bottle that we saw with the message inside it? That's definitely a vessel. It's definitely floating.
Yeah.
Austin's on team bottle.
I don't think it needs to transfer anything. I think it's the ability to move and float on water.
The ability to move and float on water. Jason says, yes, it's a boat. It can hold ants. Benjamin said it has to be a man-made floating vessel. A man-made floating vessel. How's that? Man-made floating vessel. That floating bridge was definitely, would we say that's a man-made floating vessel? Or is it? This guy right here on the left. Is that a man-made floating vessel? What do we think?
Definitely man.
Jason says a man-made floating vessel that can move. Okay, what about that bridge in Curacao that's like this one, but it swivels out to let people by? Imagine this was a hinge right here, and it just swung open like a door. That's what this bridge is like that I'm talking about.
A boat.
That's a boat? Okay, I think we're getting close. Let's just kind of keep working on that definition, okay? Whoever wasn't participating in the discussion, you're being like this guy right here. Look at everyone sailing the boat. He's just looking at his phone. Hilarious. All right. What's up?
Why would that looking at the sink?
I don't know.
It could possibly. I mean.
So Christopher suggests a boat is a man-made floating vessel that can move long distances. Long distances. Long distances.
It really have to.
that long distances is making me stroke my beard a lot. Okay, and how can we determine their function? What are boats for? What are boats for?
Well, usually they're for transportation.
Transportation, okay. How can we determine their function? What are some ways that we can tell what a boat is used for other than floating? We've got its size, right? What are the largest and smallest types of boats you can think of? Aircraft carrier, says Jason. I'm guessing that's on the larger end, right?
A leaf.
A leaf? Whoa, now a leaf is a kind of a boat. Yeah, maybe for like an ant or something, sure. Sailboat, says Layla. I can think of boats that are too small to be sailboats, actually. Except for the little miniature ones in Central Park. Benjamin says the Titanic.
The thing is, a leaf isn't man-made.
A leaf isn't man-made, but you could make a leaf out of like wood or something. You could carve one and then set it in the water, and I'm sure it would float very much like a leaf, right?
I mean, I could just slap an ant on that leaf.
Yeah.
I mean, ant would like it, but he'll float on.
It depends if it was a seafaring ant or not, right? And Benjamin mentioned the Titanic. The Titanic is dwarfed by even our moderately sized cruise ships today, just so you know. We're going to get into that later. What about its shape? What are boats shaped like? What is the shape of a boat? What do we think? We've already seen some pretty variable examples here in the lower left-hand corner. What is the shape of that boat that's carrying all those other boats?
That's a really big boat. I think
it's very big. What's the shape of it, though?
It's a square.
It looks squarish, right? What about this one? What's the shape of this boat?
Kind of oval.
Oval, yeah, maybe.
Or like pointy.
We've got lots of different shapes to our boats. We agree that any of these are boats. How are they shaped? This boat is shaped kind of, definitely has rounded edges, right? What about this boat?
That's definitely a boat. Yeah. I mean, you can yeah.
We're seeing a lot of ovals. What about this boat? Is this a boat? Did we make up our minds about this? If you go and sit on this log, is it a boat? A long boat, yeah.
Yeah, it's a
kind of log shaped. Where was I?
Well, these are boats.
Yeah. So as we can see, boats come in many different shapes, don't they? We've seen square, and we've seen long, and we've seen kind of rounded, right? And we've seen oval and like teardrop shapes. What about its features? The things that it has on it. It's got some stuff. What types of structures and tools do we find on boats? We've got sails sometimes, for sure. What else? Fishing rods, says Benjamin. What else? Sometimes guns, yeah. More often than not, flare guns. Bait. Nets. Excellent. What else can you think of? Anchor. More boats. Rope. Excellent, excellent. All kinds of equipment, right? An engine, yeah. And what kinds of special things can boats do? What special abilities do they have to complete specific tasks? Austin points out that they also store food. Jason says harpoons and cannons. Water. They have water on them, right? Benjamin says supplies. Jason, bombs. What special abilities can boats do? Why would they have this stuff? What's it for?
To survive.
Survival, right? Keeping the crew alive. Stuff that they have in order to travel, in order to propel themselves. Fishing, transportation, survival. What else? What about, how many of you have spent any time here in the New York Harbor? Anyone ride the ferry? I ride the ferry almost every day. Watching fish, chilling. Yeah, there's a lot of boats that are specifically made for chilling out, for being relaxed and having a good time with your friends. A lot of boats purely for that purpose. Right? And what about the way it moves? In what different ways are boats propelled?
Well, usually modern day boats are propelled by machines.
Machines? What are those machines called that propel modern day boats?
And oh, darn it, I forgot.
Rand points out an engine. Benjamin says you can also find paddles on boats to propel them. How else could boats be propelled other than by engine or paddles, propellers? So an engine would turn a propeller, right? Wind. Jason, what do boats use in order to be propelled by wind?
Sail.
A sail, exactly. Sails, yes. Flags? Are flags part of a boat's propulsion system?
Flag.
Why do boats have flags on them? Jason says to look cool.
For America.
To identify their country of origin, sure. Why would they do that? Flags are used to communicate on boats. They're a way of sending visual signals to other people, other boaters, and people on shore.
Ingoli.
Sorry, Austin, I didn't quite catch that.
Ingoli.
English, yes. That would be the majority of the language that boaters use. What about this boat? What is this boat used for? What features does this boat have that give you clues about what it's used for? Consider its size, its method of propulsion, its equipment and features that it has, even its color and its shape. What do you think this boat is for? Let's take a look at it. Describe it. What do you see on this boat?
Campbell.
Say it again.
Patricia
Campbell, yeah. So the boat has a name.
Patricia.
It has a small crane. What do you think the crane is for? What does that tell you about this boat's function?
It has kind of an overhang at the door.
It has an overhang, yeah. You see, are you talking about up here where the windows are?
Yeah.
Yeah, they kind of hang over the front, don't they? Why do you suppose they might do that? People are guessing it might be for fishing. It's got a bunch of dirt-like stuff on it.
So the sun won't be too bright.
Oh, very good. It keeps the sun out of the eyes of the people driving the boat. Christopher thinks maybe the crane is for pulling other boats. Construction, says Benjamin. Very, very, very intelligent deductions here. And actually, it would be very hard to understand what this boat is for without me telling you. This is an oyster restoration vessel. Yes, Christopher, you had your hand up. Yeah, it's spitting something into the water, isn't it?
Oyster.
This is an example of an oyster restoration vessel. Its function is to load, offload, and service oyster cages, which are called gabions, which are placed underwater to encourage the growth of oysters and other marine life that promote a healthy marine ecosystem. And I'm hoping that we can have a special guest in class eventually from a local organization called the Billion Oyster Project, who I've worked with in the past. And they are trying to get a lot of oysters into the local waters here because oysters filter marine water and clean it just by existing. It's just kind of what they do. And I'm like salivating just saying the word oyster and oyster over and over again. I'm getting really hungry. So what about this boat? What is this boat used for? Why does this boat use sails instead of oars or an engine? Do you notice the sails on it? How many people would you guess it is meant to carry? And what do you think they do while they're sailing? Is it meant for short voyages or long ones? How can you tell? Benjamin points out that it says green on the side. It doesn't just say green. What does it say?
Greenpeace.
Greenpeace. What does that tell you about this vessel's function?
Save the Earth.
Yeah, they're definitely doing something that's for environmentalism. And why do they use sails?
To be environmental friendly.
Sails are environmentally friendly. Why? How?
Because they just use wind.
They just use wind, right? They're not polluting. They're not using finite resources in order to travel. They're not using fuel. And why? It looks like a big boat, right? Look at the size of the windows. You can even see a person on the deck there. This is obviously a very large sailboat. Why is it so big? Why is this boat so big? What do you think? Anyone? So this sailboat is part of a fleet owned by Greenpeace. Greenpeace is an organization that advocates for ecological wellness in marine environments. This means that they do a lot of work to make sure that oceans and seas are healthy. Can you think of examples of some of the things they might do? How are those tasks evident in the way this boat looks?
Get rid of trash, maybe.
Maybe cleaning trash, so they need a lot of room to have the equipment to clean the trash and move it around. What else? Christopher has raised a hand. Yes, Christopher. Oh, never mind. He left. To increase the capacity of the boat. The capacity for what? To hold more people? Why would they need more people for this? Yeah, more people to help out, right? What about this boat? What is this boat used for, and how can you tell? It looks a lot different from the other boats we've looked at, doesn't it? Benjamin says, war, Iran, military. How can you tell? How can you tell it's used for war or military purposes?
It seems like it has weapons on it.
See, maybe some weapons. Where are the weapons?
I see
armor
inside. It's on the top.
On the top. Layla says it looks like it's been built really strong.
This is like from a movie. Built.
Looks very big.
It's built. It kind of.
Kalena says it looks kind of like it's upside down. That's interesting. Why do you say that, Kalena? Why does it look upside down to you? The long part of the boat. Yeah, usually we think of boats kind of like going this way when they come out of the water, right? But this one goes this way into the water.
Maybe to be more stable?
Yeah, maybe. Benjamin notices that the windows are small. Why would the windows be small? Don't you want to be able to see stuff when you're on the boat?
So people can't shoot them.
Right. It makes you less vulnerable, right? If you have small windows. This is the USS Zumwalt. The Zumwalt is a stealth-guided missile destroyer commissioned by the U.S. Navy. What does stealth mean? And how can you tell that this is a stealth ship?
Well, for one thing, it's like all white.
Okay, it looks white.
I guess.
I think that's maybe camouflage, Jason says. Hard to see. Certainly, I mean, we can see it pretty well here. Do you think there would be other situations where it would be harder to see it? During war? Yeah, maybe. We're going to get more into boat camouflage a little bit later. That's definitely something I want to talk about later on during this unit. But for now, stealth, I'll just tell you, has a lot to do with the shape of the boat. It's not stealth in terms of not being able to see it with eyeballs. It's stealth in terms of not being able to be detected by radar, right? Because of the way that it reflects radar signals. And that explains the shape of it. What about this boat? What's this boat used for? We're going to go a little faster because we're running out of time.
Chilling.
For chilling, yeah, you could definitely chill. It is a kayak. Why is it colored like that? It looks kind of camouflaged. Benjamin says camping. Kind of get a camping camo vibe from it. Why would you want to be in a camouflaged boat like that? And why is it camouflaged to look like woods?
Kind of looks like mud.
Says maybe an army kayak. Nobody can see you. Well, this is actually a fishing kayak.
So fish won't see you.
Yeah, maybe.
So
It might make you a little bit invisible to fish. I'm not really sure. Who is it camouflaging you from if you're using this boat? From fish?
Maybe from animals?
Maybe from animals that might scare off the fish if they saw you. Yeah, maybe from predators.
Maybe from sharks.
Yeah, maybe you don't scare the Jason says, look, it just looks cool. Listen, camo is a big fashion thing. A lot of people wear camo just because they like the way it looks, right? What about this boat? What is its method of propulsion? How does this boat move, and why do you think it does that?
And that
Benjamin says it looks like it goes really fast.
Because it uses a fan to push the air, and then it makes it go forwards.
Right. So Christopher points out it's moving from wind like a sailboat, but it is using an artificially generated, yeah, exactly, it's pulling itself through the air. This is an airboat. Airboats are typically used in bodies of water where it would be harmful or inefficient to use in-water propulsion or have the boat go very deep into the water. Instead, airboats are propelled kind of like sideways helicopters attached to surfboards. I gave you a little activity. We don't have time for it today, but the kids who are watching this out in TV land, I'm going to ask you to sketch a few examples of boats, and I will ask you, 6R1, to also do this, but maybe on your own time. You can come back and look at this slide presentation later. Give us some examples of boats that are maybe made to quickly transport someone who needs medical attention. Or what does a boat look like that is made to take small groups of people on day-long guided scuba diving expeditions? What about a boat that is made to take 3 or 4 people around an ocean or sea just for fun without a big ecological footprint? And what about a boat that's made to take passengers on tours of very narrow canals? What features would each type of boat need and why? Layla asks, do you want us to use examples or can we sort of copy some boats? I'll leave that up to you, okay? Go ahead and do some sketching. We're going to learn more about boats next week, so enjoy your week off from having to turn anything in, but I do want you to do this. It's fun. It'll get you thinking about boats because you're going to be thinking about boats a lot as this unit continues. Thank you for coming to art class today. I'm going to stop the show.